Good morning, church. I'm going to take a small break from the devotionals I've been doing centering around the Christian concept of vocation and talk about God's pursuit of the sinner. Question: what is the greatest poem ever written in modern English? You might say it's Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, or Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, or Dylan Thomas's Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, or you might be of the persuasion that Dr. Seuss is the pinnacle of great poetry that's been done in English. Well, G.K. Chesterton, one of my favorite Christian thinkers, said that Francis Thompson's The Hound of Heaven is the greatest poem in modern English. Francis Thompson was born into a well-to-do family. His father was a surgeon, and he was given every opportunity to succeed. However, through choices that he made, he eventually ended up on the streets, actually became an opium addict. He was depressed, homeless, and even contemplated suicide. Now, by God's grace, Thompson retained his mind even during these times, and he was given a gift. That is, he was gifted with poetry. He would write, and after some time, he submitted some of his works to a London magazine and was discovered by the editors, Wilfred and Alice Meynell. They took Thompson in and they shared the gospel with him. Now, Thompson had been raised in a Christian home, and he knew the story of Jesus, but he fled from it. And by fled, I mean that he did nearly everything to keep God away. It wasn't until he had been brought low, lower than low, living on the streets, being an addict to opium, that he bowed the knee to the Lord. In 1890, some years after he came out of his addiction and time on the streets, Thompson wrote his autobiographical poem, The Hound of Heaven, which tells of God's pursuit of him. The poem starts this way: I fled him down the nights and down the days. I fled him down the arches of the years. I fled him down the labyrinthine ways of my own mind, and in the midst of tears I hid from him, and under running laughter, up visted hopes I sped. I shot precipitated adown titanic glooms of chasmed fears from those strong feet that followed after. Right from the beginning of the poem, we see the running, but it doesn't take long for God to step in. The Hound of Heaven says this. He says, all things betray thee, who betrayest me. The Hound of Heaven warns throughout the poem that everything that goes against God will actually end up going against you. In a modern retelling of Thompson's poem, it speaks of a girl who flees from the hound by first getting on a train, and it's a train that can give every carnal pleasure. She enjoys this for a while, but it drains her, and she eventually wearies of it and exits the train. When she gets off, the hound is there, waiting. It had followed her, but she continues to run. She hears a voice, a seductive voice, and the voice tells her that if you will come through the doors that I have set in front of you, you will be giving everything that you want: power, money, pleasure, prestige, everything. She goes through the door, but it was a trick. It's empty. Everything inside is broken, and she falls into complete and utter despair. She then resolves that she's going to build a shelter that's going to be built out of good works. She would work hard, she would be kind, and in doing so, she would finally earn the satisfaction that she so wanted. But even this fails her. The hound once again follows and waits. But she wants him gone so bad that she screams at him to leave. She will not yield to that hound. She despairs to the point that she believes that only in death is she going to find rest. Once again, in that moment, the hound is there. And the hound speaks in this moment when she is so broken, and she finally reaches out to the hound. And the hound says, who is God in the poem, Ah, fondest, blindest, weakest, I am he whom thou seekest. Thou dravest love from thee, who dravest me. In other words, when we drive our love away from God, we drive love away from ourselves. God's love isn't reckless, as some modern song lyrics might claim, but it is relentless. The Hound of Heaven is the same God that we see in Matthew 18, verses 12 through 14, and Luke chapter 15, verses 8 through 10. In Matthew, Jesus tells a story of a man who owns 100 sheep, and one of them wanders away. And Jesus says, will he not leave the 99 on the hills to go and look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about that one sheep than the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. In Luke 15, 8 through 10, we see this. Jesus says, suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. In both of these passages, we see this relentless love of God. It doesn't force, but he doesn't give up. He follows and he waits. Now, you might have loved ones that are far from God. In fact, you might be the one that's far from God. I want you to think about this hound of heaven in pursuit of your loved ones, or maybe even you. God follows, he waits, he welcomes if we will just turn to him. I'll be praying for you. I'll be praying for any loved ones that you have that have run from God. And we will hope that they will turn to him, the Hound of Heaven. Be blessed.